sorry I'm late again.
Quite understandable. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the card.
Of course. Is it a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Ah, that's what you wanted.
I didn't say that.
It's my job to read between the lines. What's his name?
James. James Sirius.
Oh, that's very sweet. How are you three holding up?
Depends when you ask. Mostly good, though. My projects are already paying off.
Oh, don't tell me. He's already riding a broom.
No, not quite yet. I've been sitting in the Quidditch pitch with him, though, and flying the snitch around his head.
Oh.
He sort of swats at it with his little hands. I think he wants to eat it.
Adorable.
Although I've had to disenchant the Hogwarts ceiling for the time being. All the storms lately have been scaring him.
I'm sure he'll enjoy it once the weather turns. Are you still working?
I'm taking the month off.
How's that been?
Well, I haven't been able to remove myself completely.
Don't tell me. You're still investigating the Michael Corner case.
It wasn't my fault this time.
What does that mean?
Well, I figured out who the Jonquil was pretty soon after our last session. But the baby came in before I had a chance to tell anyone. Well, she came to me.
She?
Last time I realised it couldn't be Draco because he's too tall, but I kept thinking about the Dementor's hand, and then I remembered the broken nose.
Slughorns?
No, well, yes. Slughorn said he smashed noses with the Jonquil in the street. Then later that week, she shows up at the trial with a broken nose, claiming it was broken in an anti-pureblood attack.
Narcissa? My next session's going to be rather awkward.
Well, I'm not sure he even knows about it. At least that's what she told me.
Well, hold on, let's back up. Why did she come to see you?
Well, she heard I spoke to Slughorn and figured I might be getting close. She worried I might think Draco was involved.
So she gave herself up?
I suppose. She swore he knew nothing about it. Said she regretted using him to get the Dementor's hand.
Do you believe her?
Should I?
Now.
Well, I think I believe her. I mean, after what he went through with Voldemort, I think his parents want to keep him out of trouble.
And what else did she say?
That she shut the whole operation down after we arrested her go-between, let the Acromantians go.
Do you believe that?
We'll know pretty soon if she's lying. We have people undercover in Nocturne Alley.
How did you feel about the conversation?
Pretty annoyed. She thinks she can play me like that.
What do you mean?
Well, she didn't come just to save Draco. I reckon she was relieved it was me who spoke to Slughorn. She thinks I'll let her walk because of our history. I'd respect her more if she just asked outright.
What do you mean, your history?
She lied to Voldemort to save my life.
I didn't know that.
I'm not sure anyone does. She did it for Draco.
And you think she feels you owe her?
I didn't until now, but I shouldn't be surprised. She's a Malfoy, after all.
What did you say to her?
Not much. I mean, she pretty much said what she came to say and then left, which is for the best, otherwise who knows what I might have said.
What did you do?
What do you mean?
Well, did you tell your boss?
No, not yet. I've been busy with the baby.
Oh, yeah. But you plan to?
I mean, she deserves it, doesn't she?
That's what I'm asking.
Well, sure. I mean, the Malfoys are awful. I've honestly started feeling sorry for Draco, having to grow up with parents like that.
Is it possible that she feels the same? I mean, it's dangerous to base decisions off assumptions. What if she really was just trying to defend Draco?
I have considered that. I'll admit, it does look selfless to make an outright confession before anyone accuses her. But maybe that's why she did it, to manipulate me.
Like I said, it can be dangerous to base decisions off assumptions.
Yeah, I heard you. God, I know I'm just talking in circles. I'm just not sure what to do.
Well, your lack of action so far is telling.
No, honestly, I think being a dad's making me soft.
In what ways?
I don't know, just more sentimental, I guess. Sometimes things randomly hit me, especially if I'm holding him.
For example?
Something about it makes me feel more... something, I don't know, emotional.
Emotional good or emotional bad?
Well, depends on if it's during the day or when he wakes me up at 3 a.m.
I was looking for a serious answer.
How did you know this was about Sirius?
Years of experience.
I have been thinking a lot about him lately.
What about him?
I've just been missing him. This is a huge part of my life and he's never going to see it.
And that makes sense. When we lose someone close, it can feel strange to grow and change without them. What are you thinking?
Were we even that close?
Were you?
I thought we were. But I've been thinking a lot about what you said.
What I said?
You remember around Christmas when Molly overheard me say that thing about Sirius?
I remember.
Well, you were obviously right. She was more of a parent to me than Sirius ever had the chance to be. I think of us as having this great relationship, but then when I heard myself explain it to you, it was like, well, how close could we have been after living together for a month and exchanging owls for a couple of years?
I'm sorry if that's what it sounded like I was saying. I didn't mean to diminish your relationship.
I know, but it's still true.
Well, if that's the case, why did you feel like he was the closest thing you had to a parent?
I think maybe I wanted a dad so badly. It was just... what's the word for when you put your feelings onto someone else?
Projection?
Yeah, I think I was projecting.
All right, then why did you choose Sirius specifically to fill the role?
Well, he was my godfather, and he was friends with my dad. And maybe the fact that we didn't see each other that often made it easier to keep up the illusion.
Maybe, but I'm not convinced that's all. How would you have answered that question a few months ago, before you started doubting things?
I probably would have said it was the way he made me feel.
You have to elaborate.
I know, it's just, it's hard to explain. Special, I guess.
How did he make you feel special?
He treated me like an equal, even though I was only a kid. He made me want to be better.
That's good. It's important to have good role models when we're young.
He still is one. Yeah. When Ginny was pregnant, whenever I had doubts, I'd remember how he made me feel, and I thought, if I could make my son feel like that, that would be enough. But then I realized I have no idea what he'd be like as a real parent. I know I have Molly and Arthur, but we're so different. I could see myself in Sirius. At least I thought I could.
In that same session, you said you'd be a different person without him. Do you still feel that way?
I'm not sure.
Well, can you think of any ways that he might have influenced you?
Well, this is obviously a really small thing, but whenever I polish my broom, well, how much do you know about broomsticks?
The Nimbus 1500, that's the good one, right?
Oh, well, there have been some updates since then, but yeah, it's a classic.
I've just dated myself, haven't I?
No, really, Nimbus had really solid handling back then. It's a good broom.
Please continue.
Right. Well, these days, almost any polish you buy is strengthened with ground booba-tuber. It works well for weather protection, but Sirius showed me how the older stuff actually keeps the wood healthier. You just have to apply it more often.
I definitely understood all of that.
Not that the older brands are easy to get your hands on these days. That being said, thanks to Sirius, I fly to France every couple months to pick up a tin. And it's kept my firebolt in good condition since I was 18.
Good, that's a good start. Can you think of anything else?
Well, I've mentioned this before, but he obviously showed me just how unjust the world can be. He wasted half his life in Azkaban. Maybe that's why I became an aura.
I can tell that's something you're passionate about, with the way you're trying to reform your department.
Definitely. It doesn't always make me the most popular wizard, but whenever I have doubts, I think about what he would have done, and the guilt keeps me motivated. Oh, that's another thing, by the way, his rebelliousness. I think that rubbed off on me.
How was he rebellious?
Well, loads of ways. He didn't get on with his family growing up either. They were rich purebloods and proud of it. He never bought into any of that. He told me he used to hang pin-up posters of muggles in his bedroom, rile them up. Well, eventually he got kicked out of the will and left home to live with my dad. He was the sort of person who stuck up for what was right.
The sort of person, one might say, who carries on investigating a case after his boss tells him to stop.
Right. Is there anything else? Well, there are things about him I try to live up to.
For example?
Well, he would do anything for his friends. He died saving me, and the whole reason he went to Azkaban was because he was trying to avenge my parents' death.
Can you explain that to me?
When Voldemort was after my parents, they needed to keep their hiding place a secret. They knew Voldemort would assume Sirius was their secret keeper, so they decided to go with another friend. It was Sirius's decision to use Peter Pettigrew. He said that decision never stopped haunting him. The night they died, he went after Pettigrew for revenge, and, well, you probably know how that turned out.
Sadly, I do.
He was one of the bravest people I've ever met. I feel less guilty when I try to live up to his example, but like I said, now I'm not even sure I knew him that well.
You've mentioned feeling guilty a couple of times. What do you feel guilty about?
I've told you before.
That you feel responsible for his death?
Yes.
I know this is difficult, Harry, but if we want to figure this out, we need to talk about it.
I know. When I was 15, Voldemort tricked me into thinking Sirius was in danger. It was easy to believe he'd gotten himself in trouble. I mean, he'd been cooped up at home for months. He told me he felt useless, like he needed help somehow. But he wasn't in danger. It was a trap. And everyone told me not to fall for it, but I did. Sirius ended up coming to rescue me instead, and he died in the process.
How did he die?
It's complicated. Bellatrix Lestrange killed him.
I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and that you've had to live with that.
It wasn't always like this. At first it felt like I was going to die, but then I must have buried it or something. I just didn't really think about it for a couple of years.
Oh, that's a completely normal reaction to such a traumatic event. When did things start to change?
Well, a few years later, I visited Azkaban for the first time.
Okay.
Hermione had mandated some improvements to the inmates' food. I told her I'd drop by and make sure they were keeping to her standards.
Okay.
Seeing how awful the place was, even without the Dementors, it was upsetting. And he spent 12 years there. And then he got out, and then he died because of me.
We'll come back to whether or not that's true, but how did that experience affect you?
I guess that's when it all came back. I couldn't sleep for a few weeks.
When did that get better?
Not long after that, when I had to watch Teddy for a weekend.
Who's Teddy?
My godson.
Sorry, you have a godson?
Have I not mentioned that?
Certainly not.
Weird. It seems like it would have been relevant by now.
Indeed.
Anyway, it was sort of a crazy weekend. His grandparents were out of town and Ginny was travelling for a tournament. Ron and Hermione were on their honeymoon, so I had to watch him by myself.
A honeymoon with each other?
Oh, yeah, they're married.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. Anyway, how did that go?
Well, I was nervous going in because I thought it would make me think about Sirius and feel even worse.
And did you?
No, it was actually really nice. He said his first word, cake, although that was slightly awkward to explain because I wasn't supposed to give him any. I did think about Sirius a lot that weekend, but I didn't really feel guilty. Felt like I was doing him proud somehow.
How so?
Being a good godfather like he was.
Being a good godfather alleviates the guilt?
Not completely. I still feel guilty when I think about him too much.
But it helps, spending time with your godson.
Most of the time. I don't just mean with Teddy, though.
How many godchildren do you have?
No, I mean, that's not the only way I try to do him proud. I just try to, keep him in my memory and live up to his example.
Like with the broom wax.
Polish, but yes.
Now that you're beginning to question things more, have any of these feelings changed at all?
I do still think about him a lot, but I don't know, it's confusing.
How so?
For instance, Ginny's next season starts in the fall, and I offer to take off work when she goes back, but she thinks we should get a part-time nanny to help out.
And how do you feel about that?
I don't like the idea, but she's convinced me it makes the most sense with both of us working.
And how does Sirius play in?
Well, when I finally agreed that's what we'd do, I felt guilty because I knew he wouldn't have wanted that.
How do you know that?
Well, that's the thing. Eventually, I realised I had no idea how he felt about nannies. Why would I? I just assumed he felt that way because I felt that way. And that made me wonder if all the other times I was certain of what he would do, I was also just projecting. Like with Narcissa. I wanted to turn her in, but I thought that Sirius wouldn't have wanted that, He hated the Malfoys, but he hated Azkaban a lot more, plus after what she did for me.
Makes sense.
But maybe not. I mean, her sister killed him after all. Maybe he would have wanted revenge, and would he really trust that Narcissa's done for good?
It seems like trying to work out his stance on things causes you a great deal of stress.
Lately, at least.
If I may be blunt, have you tried not doing that?
I have, but then I feel like I'm abandoning him.
So if I'm to understand this correctly, you feel guilty when you think about him, and you feel guilty when you don't.
I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but yes.
I mean, I can understand your confusion, but I don't think it's fair to say that you didn't know him at all.
I know, you know I exaggerate.
In fact, it seems to me that you knew a great deal about him, considering how brief your relationship was.
I suppose.
Maybe there are still times that you can look to him for inspiration. With Teddy, for instance.
That's true.
How did you become his godfather, anyway?
I was friends with his parents, especially his dad, Lupin.
Remus Lupin. Another friend of your father's, if memory serves.
He was.
How did you know him?
He taught Defence Against the Dark Arts my third year, and he was in the Order. He died in the war.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks. He taught me how to make a Patronus, so we spent a lot of time together.
In your third year? That's quite advanced.
I'd never had a teacher like that before.
What do you mean?
He was the first person who made me feel like my ideas really mattered.
And yet you were closer to Sirius.
Yes.
I just wonder why that is. They were both friends of your father's, and you knew them both around the same age.
I don't know, we just were.
I think it's worth figuring out.
I guess I felt more comfortable telling Sirius things.
What sort of things?
Like if something was bothering me. Don't get me wrong, I told Lupin stuff too, but I don't know, Sirius just felt more like a friend.
You didn't know him very long. How quickly did you come to feel that way?
Oh, immediately.
Immediately you were telling him things that bothered you?
Yeah. Why?
Just knowing you. I'm surprised.
Oh. Well, he sort of acted like we were friends already. He told me about his life, and I did too.
It sounds like he was more vulnerable than Lupin.
That's not the word I would use.
Why not?
He just wasn't an especially sensitive person. He rubbed people the wrong way sometimes.
Oh, that may be, but it seems that with you at least he was very willing to share his experiences, both good and bad.
I suppose.
For instance, his unhappy childhood, his feelings of inadequacy when he was stuck at home, his guilt over your parents' death.
He was more open with me. I know Lupin had a rough go of it as a kid, but he never talked about it much.
Maybe that's what helped you get closer to Sirius so quickly.
You think so?
I think of vulnerability as a way to connect to other people. Being honest about your feelings and understanding those of others are two sides of the same galleon.
Yeah. I don't think I'm very good at that.
You're getting better, though.
Am I?
Certainly. That's come up a lot here.
I guess that's true.
Well, think about our previous sessions. Dumbledore was never vulnerable with you. That was the problem. And you and Ginny? Do you feel your relationship's improved?
I do, and we have been more open with each other.
Even with me. You've become much more direct about how you feel. The Harry from our first session would never have opened up about his fear of losing touch with Sirius. In fact, I'm not sure the Harry from our first session would have known it himself. Not the way that you do now. It may not come as naturally to you as it did to Sirius, but maybe this is another way that you can honour his memory. However, honouring his memory will never cure your guilt. The more you think it will, the more disappointed you're going to be.
Then what am I supposed to do?
Forgive yourself.
I don't know if I can do that.
Don't you think Sirius would want you to?
Maybe, but that doesn't really matter.
Then I suppose you haven't forgiven him either.
Forgiven Sirius?
For your parents' death.
I never blamed him for that.
But he blames himself just as you do.
No, that's different. No, it's not really, is it?
The only difference is it's about you. I've seen how forgiving you can be of other people.
But everyone told me it was a trick.
But you didn't kill Sirius. Bellatrix did.
I don't think I'm going to arrest Narcissa.
I know that.
Am I that predictable?
Only sometimes. But at the end of the day, Harry, Sirius was special to you because he loved you. And as long as you love your son, you're going to be special to him too.
Professional advice worth every galleon.
Oh, thank you. I try my best.
Oh, no, don't you remember? I was just joking. I mean, I wasn't joking. You've been great and you're very fairly priced, but Well, that's what I said sarcastically in our first session, remember?
Oh, I do now, yes.
I always felt sort of bad about that, so I thought it would be funny to bring it back up again, but apparently not.
I'll just take the compliment.
Right.
Is there anything else before next week?
I don't think so.
Well, I'll see you next week then.
Actually, there is something I've been wondering.
What's that?
You graduated Hogwarts in 1980, right?
1981. Thank you very much.
Right, sorry. That means you were 3 years below my parents. Did you know them?
Not well, but Lily tutored me in potions in my 4th year.
Really?
To be honest, she wasn't the best tutor, but she was very nice. Actually, I asked her advice once. Hogwarts had this dance coming up, and a boy I liked a lot had asked me to go. Sadly, I'd never had much of a sense of rhythm. I tried really hard to learn how to dance. I practiced for hours and hours, but I was totally useless in that department. I mentioned to Lily that I was feeling anxious, and she laughed. She said James was the worst dancer she'd ever met, and if my dancing skills meant so much to this boy, then he wasn't worth my time anyway. I'm not sure I could really rely on her advice, because her and James had only just started dating, and she was totally obsessed. But I appreciated the sentiment.
So, what happened? Is that him?
In the photograph? No, that's my husband. He's a muggle.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Why did you think the photo didn't move?
I don't know. I've never considered it. I'm not a great dancer either.
On that note, I hate to kick you out, but your boyhood rival is waiting.
Right. See you next week.
Attracted to him?
Do you think that's a possibility?
What a stupid question. I guess Father was right about you lot.
All right then, my mistake.
What could have possibly given you that idea?
Well, to start with, we begin every session talking about him, though I've made it very clear that no, I cannot tell you any of his secrets.
It's not every session.
Well, you've just spent the last few minutes complaining how dishevelled he looks today.
It's unprofessional. He's supposed to look like a ministry official, not like he's about to hit the changing room showers.
Yes, you've made that point.
It's just not fair that he gets away with anything because his name's Harry Potter.
I also recall your jealousy for the persuasive power of his big green eyes. In fact, on multiple occasions you've wondered what Harry might look like without glasses. You've also got an impressively specific memory for how he used to dress. And in 2 separate occasions, you've shown me how he used to sit during class.
It was relevant.
It was not relevant. And you're constantly recounting the arguments the 2 of you had at school.
Because it drove me crazy.
Yes, I can tell.